Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kristen, for that intro. I hope you're all enjoying the conference so far, and thanks for coming to this session. I want to start out talking about getting started building Melon. So it was just about 4 years ago, and I was actually still a student at the time studying cognitive science and computer science at Pomona College in Los Angeles. And I was really inspired by this idea that we could use technology to better understand our bodies and our minds, and to use that understanding to improve ourselves and become the best selves that we can be. And so I built Melon, this is the headband, with the intention of doing that to let people gain a greater understanding of their mind. And we had some great partners along the way, like IDEO and some investors, and of course our Kickstarter backers. And being a student at the time, I was also really inspired by the idea of giving people a better way to focus. So when you're in school and you're a student, people struggle with focus all the time, whether they're taking a test, they're doing a musical performance, they're competing in an athletic event, and I just wanted to give people a better way to find focus and to become less stressed in our kind of distracted, hectic world that we live in. And also, I was inspired by our ability to do research. So we're used to being able to do research on a lot of things. We have instant access to technology and the internet, and when we have a question, we can pretty easily these days do some research and find an answer. But how do we do research on our bodies, and how do we do research on our minds? A lot of us don't have access to the tools we need to answer those kinds of questions. Some of us do. Some of us are researchers and doctors with access to brain monitoring tools like EEGs and fMRIs, but most of us don't. And I wanted to know, what would we learn if all of us had access to the tools to measure our minds, and what would we learn as people, and how quickly once everyone has these sorts of tools. So I built Melon to help people research themselves. And even just a few years ago, wearables was nowhere near as big of a trend as it is now. I hadn't heard of wearables at the time. But I didn't have a Fitbit or anything like that. But I was also so driven by this belief that I could make something that would measure the mind, that people would want to wear, and that we all have this desire to understand ourselves better and answer these questions. And I think it's that drive and that belief that got me to actually do it, and it's the same thing that has us all interested in wearables right now. And I think part of that is wearables have the potential to change our relationship with technology and change that relationship to be more personal and more integrated in our day-to-day lives. And that being said, I think we've seen a lot of growth in the wearable space, and we saw a lot of examples earlier in Joanna's talk of wearables that exist right now that some of us in the audience own, and you can go to a lot of stores anywhere and find them. But I think the greatest potential impact of wearables is still ahead of us. And I think we can pretty much all agree on that there are wearables that we can envision in the future using more frequently than the ones that we do today. So I'm going to talk about some of the areas where I see in the not-so-distant future wearables having a big impact on our day-to-day lives and changing that relationship with technology. The first area I'm going to talk about is augmented reality. And I think part of what built a lot of the hype around wearables recently is seeing Google Glass. It was a really exciting product. It was an augmented reality product. And I think it got a lot of people really excited about what wearables could do for us in the future. And we're used to kind of living in the moment and having these experiences, and then having our technology take us out of that. So we spend a lot of time looking at our phones and looking at computers. And we're in the moment 1 minute, and then the next minute we're completely taken out. And augmented reality has the ability to integrate our technology into our experiences and into our moments, so we can both benefit from the technology that we do have without being taken out of the experiences they're having. So as Kristen mentioned, Melon was earlier this year acquired by a company called Daiquiri, which is an augmented reality company. And at Daiquiri, the focus is using augmented reality for the future of work. So we're building this augmented reality powered smart helmet. And what it does is augment details about somebody's job in real time for them as they're looking around. So they could be following a complicated set of instructions, and in real time, the helmet knows what step they're on and augments information to help them do their complicated job more accurately and more efficiently. And on top of that, because it's a wearable, there's a lot of sensors inside the helmet that keep track of aspects of our environments that we can't do all on our own, and then present that data back to the wearer. So, for example, it has a thermal camera that could alert someone if there's an area on their work site that's hot and they shouldn't go over there. And of course, we're thinking about how the helmet can also look inwards at our bodies using sensors from Melon and others, and how that informs augmented reality. And we're also going to be seeing augmented reality applications for just all of us. So this is an example of an app, Google Translate. You guys can download it today. It exists on the App Store. And what it does is uses the camera on the phone to translate languages that you're seeing in front of you, and then it also blends those into what you're looking at. So I think we could all imagine a time where augmented reality fits into a form factor that we're excited to wear, like our own glasses or contacts. And we could all be sitting here and reading presentations that people are giving in the languages that we understand best. The next area I want to touch on is audio and audio wearables. And I don't know how many of you saw the movie Her, but I think this is one of the cooler wearables that people have thought about in the last few years. But in the movie, the main character wears this earpiece, and it lets him communicate. He communicates with an AI, he communicates with other people, he gets information from his technology without being taken out of his day-to-day life. So he's still fully immersed in the world, and it's very natural. And he has the option to engage with the screen or use technology more in the ways that we're used to, but it's not the primary way that he uses it. So audio gives us an alternative interface for technology. And it also could have the potential to let us focus our attention on the things that we're really excited about. So if you're wearing an audio device that can filter sound, you can imagine being at a concert and drowning out the noise from the people around you and instead focusing in on the music that's being played. There's also augmented reality applications for audio as well, so that tap into our imagination, and you could imagine every morning when you look in the mirror, hearing applause or just hearing noises that don't normally exist in your day-to-day life, but could be fun. And this sort of thing is not too far off. There are companies working on products like this. This product up here is called Here by Doppler Labs. And similar to a Bluetooth headset that we might already wear, it connects to your phone, which serves as a brain for the product, and it can already do some of the noise filtering and things that I was talking about. So the next area I want to talk about is health and safety. And this has already been touched on today because it's a huge space. And when it comes to wearables, nothing's more personal than measuring our bodies and our environments. But if we allow this to happen, we collect so much data that's going to create better and better health applications in the future. So even with the data that we're capturing already, we have more data than we've ever had about our bodies in our day-to-day lives. And at Melon, we have one of the largest brain and behavior databases that's ever existed, and it's continuing to grow. And through this, we're going to just see more personalized medicine, more personalized safety based on our bodies and our environments, and we'll see wearables that can look for, diagnose, and treat medical conditions, and eventually move into predictive and preventative care. So you could imagine a wearable that could detect if someone is about to or is having a heart attack and notifies people around them that they need to get to a hospital. Or you could imagine someone's wearing a Melon and we can detect that they're about to have a seizure, and if they're on stairs, they need to move somewhere safer. So we're also thinking about this at Melon for the workplace. So how do wearables in this space, in the health and safety space, help prevent people from getting into dangerous situations? So say we detect someone's drowsy on the job. How do we make sure they take a break before something dangerous happens? And in addition to collection of data that's going to make this possible, we're also seeing advancements in the materials that we use to capture this health information. So here's an example of some stretchy electronics by MC10, and these could just be stuck onto the body. Wearables could be more invisible, more out of the way, and more easily integrated into our day-to-day lives. The last area I want to touch on is virtual reality. So this is kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum from what I was talking about with augmented reality, because instead of bringing you more into your regular experiences, it takes you somewhere completely new and you're fully engaged in a new environment that you've never been in before. So it's the choice to experience technology in a fully immersive way. And we already try to do this with our technology. We use our phones and our TVs and games and video games to get ourselves out of our heads or relax or learn things. And VR is the next step in this. And it's not often talked about as a wearable, but it absolutely is. It sits on your face, and it knows things about what you're looking at and how your head's moving, and it's designed to be as comfortable as possible. And I think people also are looking at how to make it safer to stare at a screen in a VR headset than looking at our phones, because we all know that causes some health issues. But it takes you places you've never been before, like sitting courtside at a Lakers game, traveling through space, that kind of thing. So what do we need to think about when we're designing wearables for the future? I want to tell you guys about my first investor back when I started Melon. His name was Bill Warner, and he was the founder of Avid Technologies. And he invests in companies that are founded by people that he says are building from the heart. And what that means is that they're building technologies that they care about. They're building products that they themselves would want to use, and they're people first. So they're product designers who think about who are their people and what are their needs, and they don't get as carried away with features, because with wearables especially, one, we're asking a lot of people to put them on. So we're asking a lot of somebody to put something on their body that's technology, that's tracking data about them, and that the companies are seeing. But also there's so much that's possible in terms of shrinking things down and putting them onto our bodies. But I think we'll see the most success in products that are built for people first. So I'm going to leave you guys with a few thoughts. The first is that the greatest impact of wearables is absolutely still ahead of us. So it's a growing space, and I think these areas and others will start to see more and more products that actually we use every single day. And wearables have the opportunity to change our relationship with technology. So I challenge everyone to think about what is the relationship that you want with your technology, and how could a wearable help create that for you? And then also, no matter what you're doing, build from the heart, and especially if you're building a wearable, build products for people, by people. Thanks.